exposed, 3 spine-chilling caving experiences that uncovered sinister and haunted secrets when Adam and his family ventured into the mouth of the dark cave. They had no idea they were stepping into a host of nightmares that would lurk in the shadows. It was supposed to be a fun escape from their troubles, but as the chill crept into their bones, the cave held secrets that were far more sinister than they could ever imagine. Whispers echoed through the damp walls, carrying tales buried deep, tales that had terrified the townsfolk even before the mine closed its doors. The air was thick, almost suffocating, as they crossed the threshold. Adam's heart pounded in his chest, but he forced a smile as he glanced at Sarah, who held a flashlight with trembling hands. Mia and Jake tagged along, giggling nervously, blissfully unaware of the darkness swirling around them. Little did they know that the laughter they exchanged would soon fade into a stark silence filled with whispers of despair. As the family walked further in, flickering lights cast eerie shadows, morphing stalagmites into grotesque faces. The excitement slowly transformed into a spine-chilling suspicion. "Did you hear that?" Mia asked, clutching her brother's arm. The sound of a low moan ricocheted off the stone walls. "It's just the wind," Adam insisted, though a bead of cold sweat ran down his spine. Suddenly, Adam spotted strange carvings etched into the jagged rock. Each mark seemed to tell a story of miners who had entered but never returned. The unsettling thought flickered through his mind. What if the same fate awaited them? He shook his head, trying to dispel the creeping fear, but unease settled like a heavy fog. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." A loud crash echoed from deeper within the cave. Adam's heart raced as he sensed something other than the mine's residual fear. A shadow darted past them, too quick to pinpoint. They exchanged horrified glances, a wordless agreement binding them tighter. They were not alone anymore. "Might be an animal," Jake said, though his voice quivered, a facade of courage failing under the weight of dread. But Adam knew better. The oppressive silence muffled any hopeful thoughts, and whispers seemed to rise from the earth itself, a chorus of regret and sorrow calling them deeper. Their path twisted, a menacing labyrinth that seemed to lead them not out, but further into a darkness they weren't prepared for. Then, they stumbled upon a dimly lit chamber where the shadows danced, revealing a man, his face a mask of desperation and anger. "You shouldn't have come here," he growled, eyes wild. Fragments of his story, once a beacon of hard work and optimism, morphed into resentment, fueled by isolation and betrayal. The cave was a tomb for many, and Adam realized that this man was just one of the tragic souls trapped by the town's greed. The walls seemed to close in as panic gripped Adam. Were they capable of escaping this shared fate, or were they to become another chapter in the sinister history of the town? Despair began to crack the fragile seams of their unity, each tremor tightening the grip of terror around their hearts. The air thickened as they huddled together, fear leaking into their very souls, and just as hope began to flicker like the dying light of their flashlights, they heard it, a slow, deliberate stomping echoing from the depths of darkness. Something else was out there, something that had drawn them in with whispers. Adam's blood ran cold as he realized the implication. They may never leave this cave again. The footsteps grew louder, reverberating off the walls, like a heartbeat echoing back to them. Adam's breath hitched in his throat as a chill slithered down his spine. The man's eyes, wild and frantic, spoke of unspeakable horrors. "You have to leave," he shrieked, his voice slicing through the heavy air. Now, but it was too late. The shadows seemed more tangible, swirling and closing in. The family huddled closer, the flashlight beam quivering as Sarah struggled to keep it steady. "What do we do?" Mia whispered, a tremor in her voice. Adam felt his heart racing, a primal instinct to protect his family surging within him. "We go back," Adam decided, trying to sound braver than he felt. But as they turned, The path behind them had shifted. The familiar jagged rocks and narrow openings morphed into an unfamiliar maze, twisting and folding upon itself in unsettling ways. In the corner of his eye, Adam saw the gleam of something, a flicker of movement that made him want to scream. No, they had to move. They had to get out, with desperate determination. The family forged ahead into deeper darkness, the weight of uncertainty pressing against their chests. The man shouted behind them, "No, you don't understand. He's coming. He always comes." Jake turned to Adam, his eyes wide with terror. What does he mean? But before Adam could respond, they heard a horrifying growl, primal and resonant, vibrating through the stone. It was a sound that seemed to gnaw at the edges of their sanity. They stumbled onward, adrenaline pulsating through their veins, every instinct screaming to escape. The whispers grew louder, merging with a low, throaty snarl that echoed from the depths. Shadows leaped and danced, sprouting ghostly shapes as their flashlights flickered, threatening to plunge them into total darkness. "Hold on," Adam urged, clutching Sarah's arm, their fingers intertwining with a grip tighter than iron. He felt the icy breath of dread caress his back. It was close. Whatever hunted them was close. They entered another chamber, larger this time and filled with an oppressive weight. The walls bore deeper carvings, more than just desperate scratches. They showed faces twisted in anguish, eyes wide in eternal terror. This was a warning, Adam realized, but it was too late to turn back. Then, they saw a figure emerging from the shadows, its form blending seamlessly with the darkness. Its eyes glowed an eerie red, a harbinger of doom, fixated on their every move. Adam's heart thundered, panic surging as the creature took a step forward, a grotesque mockery of humanity. "Run!" he roared, not needing to tell his family twice. They turned and sprinted blindly into the maze of terror, the echoes of their own footsteps mingling with the creature's relentless pursuit. But the passages twisted and turned, disorienting them further. Echoes of the man's warning rang in their ears, "He always comes." What had drawn them into this hell? What had awakened the creature sleeping within the rock? As they ran, the walls seemed to close in, squeezing the air from their lungs. A dead end loomed ahead, looming like a gaping mouth ready to swallow them whole. Could they face a choice so dire? Another growl reverberated, closer this time. Adam skidded to a halt just as the creature lunged from the shadows, its talons extending, longing to capture them in its grasp. The flashlights flickered and died, leaving them in utter blackness. "What do we do?" Mia screamed, her voice a raw thread against the suffocating void. In that moment of silence, a glimmer appeared ahead, a flickering light, one that felt achingly familiar. It beckoned them, a possible way out, a lifeline thrown into the torrent. But Adam hesitated. Was that the path to freedom or something far worse? They had to decide. Face the creature or follow the light into the unknown. As Adam's gaze darted back to the pursuing shadow, realization dawned. The lighter seemed to twist, forming a face much like the one he'd seen carved into the walls. Was it a trick? The walls trembled around them as they stood at the edge of decision, winds of fate swirling, and terror looming heavily in the dark. What choice would they make in those final heartbeats before disaster struck? The darkness pulsed, an almost living thing, encasing them in uncertainty. Heart racing, Adam's breath came in rapid bursts, mingling with the fear that clung to him like a second skin. The flickering light before them danced tauntingly, luring them into its radiant, deceptive embrace. "Which way?" Sarah gasped, her fingers trembling in his grip. He could feel the cold sweat pooling at the base of his spine. Choices swirled like autumn leaves, but none felt right. "Jake, Mia, stick close to me," he barked, urgency lacing his voice. From deep within the darkness, the growl returned, resounding like thunder, wrapping around their very bones, tightening its grip in a grotesque parody of familiarity. It was hungry for them. Adam's instincts screamed for them to take the light, to trust the hopeful shimmer that called out. Was there safety there, or betrayal waiting to ambush them? Adrenaline surged, mingling with desperation. "Go," he shouted, darting toward the flicker. The air thickened, suffocating in its anticipation. He propelled his family forward, praying that instinct led them right. Shadows flicked behind them, darting as if to communicate, whispering promises of harm wrapped in tempting strings of comfort. The light grew brighter, illuminating the path like a beacon. They stumbled toward it, their bodies rebelling, careening against jagged rock walls that threatened to trap them. Adam felt his heart hammering louder, drowning out all reason. What if the light was an illusion, conjured solely to lead them deeper into despair? Suddenly, out of the depths of shadow came a swift movement, followed by a bone-chilling screech that tore through the air. "Faster!" he yelled, panic clawing at his throat as something brushed past him, its claws scratching viciously against stone. They pushed onward, feet pounding, thudding against uncertainty. The oppressive darkness nipped at their heels, a constant reminder of the creature lurking just behind, eager to reclaim them. The growl transformed into a raspy laugh, a sound that echoed with echoes of the madness they dared not acknowledge. And then it happened. A flash of light revealed the figure again, more defined this time, a grotesque silhouette of twisted muscles and jagged limbs, its eyes burning like dying coals in a hollowed-out face. "Keep moving," Adam shouted, desperation fiendish in his tone. Mia stumbled, her ankle twisting. "I can't," she cried out, falling to the floor. "Get up. We can't stop." He grabbed her arm, pulling her upright despite her protests. The weight of the creature's malevolence pressed down on them, a palpable force that threatened to overwhelm. But there was no time. They pressed forward, the glimmering light flickering as if it had taken on a life of its own, pushing them to believe in its promise. Then Adam saw it, a narrow opening just ahead. "Here," he yelled, aiming for the slide behind the shimmering glow. They entered the tight space, squeezing past jagged rock and claustrophobic fears. As they pushed through, the creature let out a bellow of rage that reverberated through the walls, sending fresh chills down Adam's spine. The tunnel twisted and narrowed, squeezing the air until it felt like the walls might cave in around them. It echoed with their shouts and the monster's growls, filling the void they sought to escape. And then everything shifted. The ground beneath them trembled violently, sending stones cascading like rain from above. The walls began to close in, crushing their hopes. "Run!" Adam screamed, his voice barely cutting through the chaos, pushing them forward. But with each step, shadows loomed larger, their grip tightening. The light flickered once more, a beacon without direction. It flickered, almost extinguishing completely, then urged them on like a flare in the night. As they hurled toward what seemed to be an exit, a horrific realization dawned on Adam. This wasn't a way out. It was a trap, drawing them deeper into a twisted reality where hope was a vicious mirage. Panic surged in his chest. What if they were leading themselves straight to the heart of darkness? He had to protect them, but at what cost? In that moment of despair, a voice rasped through the noise, echoing through the chamber you can't escape. Yes, always here. Adam froze. What had they awakened, and how much longer did they have before it claimed them all? The walls trembled one final time as the creature let out a roar that shook the very foundations of their existence. "You will pay." And then they finally burst into a chamber, vast and filled with light. But Adam's heart plummeted. Was it salvation or damnation waiting? They stood on the threshold, teetering on the brink of fate. What lay beyond was a mystery, but the shadows behind them closed in, ready to devour them whole. What would happen next? Time was running out. The light swallowed them whole, filling the chamber with a blinding glow that glimmered on the damp walls. But as their eyes adjusted, Adam's hope wavered. The radiance felt hollow. It illuminated a vast expanse, but the beauty was deceptive, like a mirage in the desert. "Where are we?" Sarah whispered, peering into the shimmering expanse, her voice trembling. A low hum vibrated through the air, resonating in their bones. It was unsettling, a sound that scratched at the edges of sanity. Shadows twisted and swirled in the corners, teasing their minds, forging shapes that almost resembled human faces. Adam's heart raced, His instincts screamed danger. This wasn't an escape, it felt like a waiting room for despair. "Look," Jake pointed, eyes wide, nearly falling into a trance. At the center of the chamber, an altar stood. It was grotesque, carved from ancient stone and slick with some viscous fluid that glimmered like oil. A sickly sweet scent wafted through the air, heavy and intoxicating, mingling with fear. "What is that?" Mia stuttered, backing away slightly. Her face paled as if summoned by their words. The shadows deepened and coalesced around the altar. The room felt alive, vibrating with sinister energy. Adam fought to remain steady, to keep his family together. They had come this far. They couldn't falter now. "We should leave," he said half-heartedly. Would they even find another exit? But as they turned, the passage behind them sealed shut with a thundering crash, the sudden darkness turning the flickering light into a spot in a void. The growls from the outside morphed into distant screams, as if the cave itself were alive with tortured souls. "Oh God, we're trapped," Mia cried, her voice tinged with hysteria. The walls creaked ominously, a sound mingling with the chaos outside. Adam turned helplessly toward Sarah, who clutched Jake tightly against her. He could see the panic mirrored in their eyes. "That altar, it has to mean something," he muttered, stepping cautiously toward it, compelled against his better judgment. Each step echoed, bouncing off the walls like a heartbeat their warning. As he approached, trembling, he saw inscriptions swirling around the base. They were in a twisted language, ancient symbols tangled with dark promises. A chill spiraled through him. Each letter seemed a taunt, whispering words that crawled under his skin and took root in his mind. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, this time more violently. Adam staggered, barely keeping his footing. The altar pulsed with an eerie light, reflecting off their faces as if it were drawing them into its depths. "What if it wants something?" Jake whispered, eyes darting around. "Wants something?" Adam echoed. "We can't give it anything." But the thought lingered, curling around his reason. They had only been trying to survive, but what if they were meant to offer more? The realization sank in heavily, like stone in his gut. Then, from the shadows emerged the creature, its grotesque form twisted, redefined in the illumination. Its hollow eyes locked onto Adam, drilling into the heart of his terror. The laughter from the darkness returned, echoing, saturating the air like poison. "You will feed it," rasped, the sound reverberating, sending shockwaves of dread through Adam. "No," he shouted, stepping back, trembling. But as he turned, he could see the light dimming at the edges of the chamber, infinitely stretching into darkness. They were losing their chance to escape. His body moved of its own accord. "Stay put," he barked, lunging back towards the altar. The creature's hunger hung heavy in the air, palpable, hungry. A decision had to be made, but which path would open the way? In that moment of paralyzing choice, some deeper instinct spoke to Adam. He would do anything to save his family, even if it meant confronting the darkness, even if it meant paying the ultimate price. The walls trembled again, the shadows closing in. Would he sacrifice his family to satiate the monstrous hunger, or sacrifice himself to destroy the evil that wished to consume them all? The creature surged forward, and Adam braced himself. Time was slipping away, and the choice was becoming clearer. "What are you willing to give?" Its voice slithered through the chamber, an ominous question overshadowing the room. In that moment, with shadows swelling around him and terror clenching his throat, Adam whispered a dreadful truth: everything. And as the words left his lips, the ground roared beneath them, ready to decide their fate. Would it be salvation or damnation? What would happen when their deepest fears materialized? Time was running out. The moment Adam uttered his desperate promise, the air in the chamber thickened, becoming a stifling weight that pressed against their chests. The ground beneath them bucked violently, like a beast awakening from slumber. A blinding light burst from the altar, radiating around the room in pulsating waves. For a heartbeat, Adam felt an unfamiliar clarity amidst the chaos. But then it shattered, and with it, the thin veil of hope. "Run!" Sarah screamed, tearing her gaze away from the altar as it began to crack and split. But where could they run? The once solid walls now trembled as if the very stone was alive and writhing. The distance they had traversed vanishing into a dizzying abyss. The creature laughed again, a sick, gurgling sound that sent shivers straight down Adam's spine. He watched helplessly as shadows surged from the altar, spilling like ink over the ground, latching onto Sarah and Jake, their faces contorted in confusion and fear. No! He lunged forward, reaching for them. But the shadows recoiled, turning into tendrils that wrapped around their legs, tightening with every second. "Help!" Jake cried, his small voice cracking against the terror. Adam's heart raced as he felt the ground vibrate underfoot, and for a brief moment, time blurred into a collection of frantic thoughts. He could feel his family slipping away, and all his instincts screamed at him to save them. With a surge of adrenaline, Adam wrenched his way through the darkness, grasping Jake's arm, pulling fiercely against the creature's grip. The boy's eyes, wide and horror-stricken, met his father's in a desperate plea for salvation. The shadows hissed, a guttural sound of anger and hunger, and Adam grappled with the realization. He was the one who had drawn them here. "Get free. I'll hold them back," he shouted to Sarah and Jake, who remained paralyzed with fear, their limbs encumbered by the suffocating darkness. He charged at the altar once more, knowing he was running out of choices. The creature twisted and loomed closer, its grotesque form revealing rows of jagged teeth that seemed to pulse with a sickening hunger. "What do you want?" Adam roared, his heart pounding in his skull. "You want me? Take me." The altar trembled, responding to his words. Wisps of light flickered like lightning, wavering with every breath. He could barely keep his feet as the shadows shrieked, clawing at the edges of his consciousness. The air crackled, drawing Adam's soul toward the altar, felt alive, vibrating with dark energy. And then, beneath all that chaos, he heard it, a whisper, soft and haunting. "Sacrifice for your salvation, Father." Sarah's voice pierced through the din, snapping him back to reality. "Don't do this." His decision weighed heavily on him, to risk everything or to fight for the mere possibility of escape. The connection to his family surged through him, igniting an inner fire that split through the growing void. "No!" he shouted defiantly, ripping Jake from the shadow's grasp in one swift motion. He turned to run, but before he could escape, the room erupted in fury. Walls shuddered, shadows flared, and the altar shrieked as Adam refused to yield to the darkness. Couldn't the shadows feel the warmth of family? Couldn't they understand love? But love meant nothing here. And as he ran with Jake in his arms, he knew what he had to do next. "Take his hand." He screamed at Sarah, forcing a glance back at her desperate face. But as she reached out, the creature lunged, its maw extending. Everything exploded into chaos. Just as she grasped Jake's hand, Adam was thrown back, colliding against the altar, the heat of its energy scorching him. Dark laughter filled his ears, drowning out his thoughts, filling him with dread. "Your choice has been made, now witness your downfall." As the ground dropped beneath his feet and shadows spiraled around them, Adam felt a certainty deep within his bones. They could still escape. A way must exist, a fragile hope woven into the chaos. Yet he grasped at the darkness, terrified of what awaited on the other side. In that split second, before they vanished into the consuming void, Adam locked eyes with Sarah. Beneath the horror, a flicker of resolve shone, igniting a question that hung in the air like a noose. Would their fight against the darkness keep them alive, or had they just sealed their fate? The answer lingered like a whisper in the dark, waiting to be unveiled. The world twisted around Adam, a kaleidoscope of darkness and light that spun wildly. One moment he was tumbling toward an uncertain fate, the arms of shadows grasping at him, and the next, he found himself in a place he couldn't comprehend, a void suspended between existence and nothingness. A biting cold surrounded him, pressing in from all sides, chilling him to the bone. There were no walls, no roof, just an endless stretch of obscurity. Frantically, he called out for Sarah and Jake, his voice swallowed by the chilling silence. Panic clawed at his throat. "Sarah, Jake! His voice echoed, sounding weak and desperate. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the stillness, sending spikes of dread through him. It was Sarah. It cut through the air like a knife. Adam felt his heart stutter, the echo of his family's fear feeding the darkness swirling around him. He bolted forward, a futile attempt to run in a space where nothing was real, every step leading him deeper into the gloom. "Where are you?" he shouted, his voice trembling. Adrenaline coursed through him, sharpening his senses but thickening the fog of terror. Then, from within the abyss, shapes began to form, dark silhouettes writhing with malicious desire, hungry for anguish. Fear ripped through him and he instinctively stepped back. But there was no retreat in such an endless void. Balling his fists, he steeled himself. "Stay away from them!" he bellowed, the words a shield against the encroaching shadows. The laughter returned, low and sinister, reverberating around him. The shadows shifted and pulsed, forming a grotesque face, twisted with malice. "What you desire is already lost," it hissed, the voice slithering into his mind, sowing seeds of failure. "Shut up," Adam spat, rallying every ounce of rage. In the shadows, he thought he could discern shapes, forms vaguely resembling the faces of his family contorted in pain, slipping away from him. "I'm coming for you." He strained to reach them, and in that moment, a pulse of light erupted from within him, a flickering hope igniting the dark. It burst like fireworks, illuminating the abyss with ghostly tendrils of brightness. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in fury, as if they were wounded. Clarity struck him. He focused all of his strength on that light, channeling his love for his family. It expanded, pushing back the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. "Hold on, I'm here." In the distance, another voice broke through. Fragile yet powerful, it was Jake. "Dad, please, I'm scared." The sound curled around Adam, anchored in desperation. Gritting his teeth, Adam ran toward the sound, propelled by fear and love, dodging the lashes of darkness that reached out like claws. As he neared the flickering light that was Jake's voice, he felt a crack in the atmosphere, a thin line that seemed to lead somewhere, promising escape. Then there was Sarah again, calling for him. "Adam, we have to fight." With those words, a surge of determination pooled in him, igniting new energy. But that resolve was not without fear. He knew the shadows were waiting, ready to exploit any falter, and he felt every dark thought clawing at his mind, whispering doubts. The shadows pulsed with heightened malice. "Fight? You can't win. They are mine," it hissed, floating around him like smoke, slipping into those insecurities, making him question everything. Adam stumbled, memories flooding back, moments of joy, love, the warmth of his family, but those memories twisted beneath the darkness too, shifting like forms and shadows, taunting him. "Dad?" Jake's voice cracked, panic echoing in every syllable. "I'm coming," Adam shouted, as the ground beneath him began to tremble again, churning with ominous rumblings. But just as he reached for the faint light ahead, he felt himself slipping, sliding into an unseen rift. "No!" he yelled, grasping at the air. The shadows laughed, jubilant in their malevolence, when the darkness consumed him once again. He was left with one final question, one that rang ominously in the silence that followed. What was he willing to sacrifice to reclaim his family? A frigid wind swept through the void as Adam pondered that chilling choice, feeling the very fabric of despair tear at his resolve. The air crackled with tension, thick and suffocating. Adam felt the despair wash over him, but within it, the flicker of resolve burned. Moving through the void, he clung to that light, willing it to guide him back to Sarah and Jake. Time was an illusion here. Minutes felt like days as he floated in that endless dark. The shadows writhed, angry whispers now turning into shrieks of agony, as if they sensed Adam's fragile hope. "You cannot escape, mortal," they chanted, their voices layered like a macabre chorus. "You will become one of us." He clenched his eyes shut, blocking out their taunts. "I will find them," he roared, the very sound of his voice challenging the void around him. In response, the darkness pressed in more closely, squeezing against his chest. The pressure was unbearable. But there, amidst that crushing weight, the voice of Sarah sliced through the chaos once more. Adam, fight back. Remember us. Her words drove into him, igniting a spark. Memories flooded his mind: family dinners, laughter, their home filled with warmth. But they were interspersed with images of the shadows, twisting those memories into nightmares. Adam shook his head, as if to physically dispel the images. He could not allow the darkness to claim his memories. They were too precious. With each thought of his family, the pulse of light within him flared brighter. He focused, channeling every ounce of love he held for Sarah and Jake. I will not let you take them, he shouted, feeling the intensity of his determination swell. As he screamed into the void, the ground trembled violently. A fissure opened beneath him, bright light pouring up from it like sunlight through the cracks of a stormy sky. He felt its warmth wash over him, a painful reminder of hope in a place where despair reigned. Follow the light, a voice echoed, but it was not Sarah or Jake. Deeper, more sinister, repeating the shadow's mockery. Follow the light to your doom. Adam's heart raced, the urge to retreat clawing at him, but he clung to the warmth. The light beckoned him. He could feel the shadows frantically reaching, their tendrils brushing against him, trying to snatch him back. With a final, fearless thrust, he leaped into the beam of blinding brightness. The moment he plunged in, it felt like shattering glass. Pain and relief mingled in a cacophony of sensations as he was hurled through the light, spiraling. Except this time, he didn't fall. He flew. Suddenly, he landed with a heavy thud, spilling across a cold, hard ground. Gasping for breath, he rolled over and squinted against the piercing brightness that surrounded him. When his eyes adjusted, he found himself in a dimly lit cavern, walls glimmering with droplets of moisture reflecting ghostly light. Sarah, Jake, he called, urgency lacing his voice. No answer. Only the echo of his plea danced through the air like a wisp of smoke. Panic surged again, this time more potent. Where were they? Fear coiled in his belly. He stood, heart racing, scanning the vast expanse of darkness. Shadows flickered at the edges, as if waiting for him to give in to despair. Just ahead, he noticed something: a figure huddled against the wall. Relief flooded him, driving him forward. But as he drew closer, a chilling realization seeped through the air, freezing him in place. The figure was not Jake or Sarah but another man. Alone, eyes wide with terror. Help me, the man cried, his voice haunting with desperation. They're coming, they'll take you too. Adam stepped back, realizing the shadows danced closer, their mocking laughter echoing once more. He could sense them lurking, drawn by the scent of fear, a pack eager to engulf another. In that moment, standing before a stranger, terror tightened its grip around Adam's throat. What if this man was a trap? What if he led Adam straight into the shadow's embrace? Who are you? Adam demanded, his voice wavering. The man gulped, glancing behind him, a frantic look in his eyes. You have to trust me. They'll tear you apart. But was trusting someone here the right choice, or the wrong one? As Adam faced the approaching shadows, a chilling question gnawed at him: would reaching out for help lead to salvation or ruin? The path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, carrying the weight of consequences that loomed larger than the shadows themselves. What was lurking in the dark? The edges of the void here felt closer, more ruthless than before, and the decision lay before him, ripe with dread. His heart pounded louder, a countdown to the inevitable. Would he take the risk to trust the stranger and face the darkness together, or turn back into the void, seeking the familiar misery waiting just beyond sight? Adam felt trapped between instinct and desperation, the echo of shadows pressing down on him like a heavy fog. He couldn't shake the feeling of dread curling in his stomach. The stranger's wide, haunted eyes reflected his own panic. Yet there was something else, an urgency that hinted at knowledge, maybe even hope. Please, the man begged, scrambling to his feet, his breathing rapid and shallow. They know we're here. We need to move. If you stay, they'll take you too. The shadows danced closer, their syrupy whispers growing louder, undulating with dark anticipation. Adam could feel their malevolent gaze, could sense them coiling and uncoiling like snakes ready to strike. He needed to decide, and fast. Trusting this man could be his salvation, or it could lead him right into the dark embrace of the void. "Where are Sarah and Jake?" Adam stammered, clenching his fists. Hope flickered in his chest but was quickly snuffed out by the churning black around him. The newcomer hesitated, eyes darting toward the encroaching darkness. "I don't know, but we can find them. I've seen them. You just have to trust me." With a heavy heart, Adam took a tentative step toward the man. "What's your name?" he asked, forcing the words out against the audio backdrop of shadows shrieking through the cavern. "Eli," the man answered, his gaze unwavering now, a flicker of certainty shining through his fear. "I'm one of the last who made it through this place. You don't want to end up like the others, abducted and consumed." Consumed? Adam felt his skin crawl. The thought of being absorbed by the shadows, of losing his essence to their insatiable hunger, sent a wave of nausea coursing through him. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, an amorphous army shimmering with malice, closing in with a purpose that made Adam's pulse quicken. Outside the safety of the light, he could hear the keening cries of others lost to the void, trapped in agony. Together, Adam and Eli backed away from the encroaching darkness. The walls glistened with moisture, weeping, as if even the cavern itself mourned the impending doom. In that moment, time seemed to stretch painfully, the cavern holding its breath. Eli grabbed Adam's wrist, urgency burning in his grip. "There's a way out, but we have to get to the other side. I swear it's the only shot we've got." Gritting his teeth, Adam nodded. They wouldn't stand a chance alone. He could feel the shadows licking at his heels, churning with anticipation of the ensuing chaos. Eli turned, leading the way through the labyrinth. Adam followed closely, heart hammering, the air thick with foreboding. Just as they rounded a corner, the shadows pulsated, a curdling mass of malice that slithered toward them, hungry, eager. "What if they grab us?" Adam whispered, panic almost choking him. Eli kept moving, his jaw set hard with determination. "They can't take us if we stick together. Whatever you do, don't look back. Just run and stay close." The oppressive darkness stalked them, shadows curling like claws ready to scrape against their skin at any moment. They rushed deeper into the cavern, the fear in Adam's chest burgeoning into a maelstrom. Then they rounded another bend, and as they did, the ground quaked beneath them. Rocks and dirt crumbled away, dropping into a yawning abyss. Adam stumbled, but Eli yanked him back just before he fell. "Get up. We don't have time," Eli shouted, his voice barely loud enough to be heard over the deafening scramble of the shadows. Breathless fear coursed through Adam's veins, and he knew they were racing against something far darker than he could comprehend. They pushed on through narrow passageways, always steering away from the soft, malevolent glow of the shadows as they broke through to a wide-open chamber. Adam's heart sank upon seeing remnants of the previous souls who had tried to escape. Shadows loomed over them, remnants of their cries freezing in time, forever bound to this vile place. "No, no." Adam felt despair creeping back in, threatening to drown him. Eli's voice cut through his reverie. "We're close. We can find a way." But what if it was too late? Adam held his breath as fear clawed at his heart, the shadows drawing even nearer. What if this was truly the end? Suddenly, an unbearable shriek pierced the air, sending shivers down Adam's spine. The shadows were hungry, more alive than ever. Would they make it out alive? Or would they join those souls forever trapped in despair? The only movement ahead was a darkening outline, flickering in and out of existence. It beckoned, a silhouette like a candle flame in the pitch of night. Adam felt another wave of desperation crash over him. Was it a path to salvation? Or a trap set by the waiting shadows? In that moment, facing the unknown, Adam knew he had to decide. Adam's heart hammered wildly in his chest, a relentless war drum against the suffocating silence surrounding them. He stole a careful glance at Eli, whose face had turned ashen, eyes wide with terror. The flickering silhouette seemed both inviting and sinister, a dancing flame luring moths with its warmth while hiding the fire that would consume them. "Is it safe?" Adam whispered, his voice trembling. The darkness behind them clawed forward, a ravenous entity that thrived on their fear. The shadows seemed to breathe, drawing in and out like a beast slumbering, preparing to pounce. "We can't stand here. We have to risk it," Eli urged, his resolve cracking like brittle ice under the weight of the situation. "It might lead us to them, or it might be our only chance to escape." The desperation scratched at Adam's throat, but the instinct for survival clawed harder. He nodded, gripping Eli's arm tighter, summoning every ounce of courage as they stepped forward towards the uncertain glow. Each footfall echoed, resonating through the chamber, as if announcing their approach to the lurking horrors. As they neared, the outline sharpened, revealing a jagged opening just beyond the flickering shape, a tunnel, dark and narrow, but bordered by a hint of luminescence that looked much like swirling mist. It felt alive, pulsating with an energy that both terrified and intrigued him. "Go," Eli urged, pushing Adam gently forward as he peered back, a dark glimmer of regret shadowing his expression. "Whatever you do, don't stop moving." With a deep, shaky breath, Adam stepped into the tunnel. The light kissed his skin, but its warmth felt foreign amid the oppressive cold surrounding them. He could hear Eli's hurried footsteps behind him, matching his frantic rhythm. The walls of the tunnel pressed in, slick and damp, a reminder that they were inside the belly of something unnatural. "We're gonna find Jake and Sarah," Eli assured, though the tremor in his voice belied his confidence. Adam wanted to believe him, but the shadows whispered false promises. They gnawed at his thoughts, feeding on every flicker of hope. Clutching Eli's hand, Adam pushed deeper, shadows clawing at their backs, each whisper brewing a cacophony of doubts. "What if this doesn't lead us anywhere? What if it leads us to—" "Don't think about that," Eli interrupted sharply, a hint of fear lacing his tone. "Just keep moving. We can't give them a chance." The tunnel wound, disorienting and claustrophobic, as if it were a living thing shifting to keep them trapped. The mist thickened, wrapping around them like tentacles, swirling with seductive whispers. Images flickered in and out of Adam's mind: Sarah's laugh, Jake's playful shoves, and with each surge, his resolve strengthened. But then a chilling sound cut through the murmur, the unmistakable shriek of something far more horrible than darkness. It echoed through the passage, filling the air with a bitter sweetness that scorched their lungs. Adam's instincts screamed for him to turn back. "Eli, we need to go back. We can't face whatever that is. Listen to me." Eli's voice rang clear above the chaos. "That is why we have to keep going. Don't let them pull you under." With renewed determination, they sprinted further along the tunnel, heartbeats pounding in sync with the sinister chant of the shadows, urging them to stop, to surrender. Only the sounds of their gasping breaths and hammering feet filled the narrowing space around them. They rounded another bend, and the mist lifted momentarily, revealing a shimmering portal at the end, a glistening surface that felt like hope. But just as they reached the final stretch, the ground trembled beneath them, splitting open with a deafening roar. Adam stumbled, throwing himself forward as Eli grabbed his wrist. "Hold on." But before Adam could respond, the caustic shadows lunged at them, unfurling their slick tendrils like serpents. "Run!" Eli shouted, and they both leapt, hurtling toward the portal as the maw of darkness threatened to engulf them. And that split second of vertigo, Adam closed his eyes, bracing for impact, praying the light would be stronger than the shadows closing in behind them. Would he emerge unscathed? Would he find Sarah and Jake? And then, just as the light enveloped them, the deafening shriek crescendoed, pulling him into a whole new terror. What awaited them on the other side? Could they evade the shadows that had consumed so many before them? Bright light exploded around Adam as he and Eli tumbled through the portal. A wave of warmth wrapped like a blanket around them, counteracting the chill they felt in the cavern. For a moment, their surroundings were a blurred frenzy of colors before they landed hard on solid ground. "Are we alive?" Adam gasped, struggling to shake off the dizziness. "We made it," Eli panted, scanning their new surroundings. They were outside, underneath the open sky, the warm sunlight flooding their senses after the claustrophobic torment of the cave. But the relief was short-lived, replaced by bitter anxiety. But where are Sarah and Jake? Adam's heart sank at the hollow reality. They couldn't celebrate their escape until they found his family. The weight of their absence clung to him, gnawing like shadows in his mind. Over there, Eli pointed, his voice breaking the moment. Ahead, a narrow path meandered through a dense cluster of trees, each whispering breeze full of possibilities. They could be down that way. Fueled by desperation, Adam moved, feeling every heartbeat echo in his ears. No time to waste, he muttered, as they broke into a run. They fought through the foliage, arms brushing against leaves, the crunch of twigs beneath their feet blending with their hurried breaths. "Nobody's here," Adam yelled, the echo of his voice ricocheting off trunks. Fear twisted in his gut. What if they were too late? Memories of laughing in the sunlight, of shared dinners, haunted him, reminding him of everything he had to lose. "Stop!" Eli cried, and Adam skidded to a halt, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach. Eli crouched down, examining footprints in the dirt. They were here not long ago. Which way? Adam's voice cracked, vulnerability bleeding through his resolve. Towards the river, Eli concluded after a moment's concentration, pointing towards the glimmering sliver of water just visible through the trees. This way. They plunged ahead again, moving toward the sound of the rushing river. Each step rekindled hope within their desperate hearts, blurring the pain of the darkness that had threatened to suffocate them both. "Don't you dare lose faith," Eli urged, his voice edged with urgency. Just then, they broke into a clearing, and there it was, a gentle current flowing under the sunlight, glistening like diamonds. But as the light bathed them, fear squeezed Adam's heart. "Sarah, Jake," he shouted, desperation pouring from his soul. "Look," Eli pointed downstream. Adam turned just in time to see two figures struggling against the rushing water, their faces twisted in terror. "Dad!" Sarah cried, her voice laced with adrenaline and fear. Adam's heart ignited with both dread and determination as he charged down the bank. "Hang on," he shouted, the words tumbling from his lips as he felt the weight of every reason to fight pushing him forward. The current was fierce, but he could see Jake clinging to a rock while Sarah tried to pull him free, their bodies weighting against the force. "Don't let go," Adam roared, throwing his own body into the surge of water. It clawed at him, forceful and chilling, but there was nothing that could stop him now. With every inch closer, his heart raced, pumping with newfound strength, fueled by love. Eli joined him, arms outstretched, together bringing an anchor to the chaos. They reached for the kids, grasping their arms. "Pull!" Adam shouted, determination driving each movement as they fought against the current. With a final surge of strength, they pulled them both free, collapsing in a heap on the riverbank, adrenaline buzzing through them. Adam cradled Jake, his heart pounding in relief as he looked into Sarah's tear-streaked face. "Oh my God!" she gasped, hugging Jake tightly. "You're here. We thought we lost you." "No," Adam affirmed, warmth spreading through him, mingling with their shivers. "We're together. We're safe." The shadows of the cave felt far away, echoing memories of fear now overshadowed by the fierce love circling them. They had fought through darkness, and the light had brought them together. Eli sighed, visibly shaken but smiling, relief flooding his features. "You did it," he said, glancing at the family before him. "You kept each other alive." The family embraced tightly, their hearts thundering in synchronicity, anchoring each other like a sturdy lighthouse against the looming storm. "Let us get away from here," Adam said, nudging them forward, a fierce protective instinct urging him on. They turned away from the river and back towards the road that would lead them home, knowing they could face whatever came next together as they walked. Shadows danced behind them but stayed where they belonged, in the past. They knew now that darkness could never take them if they held on to each other, united through love and resilience. In that moment, the family felt something profound. They had escaped, yes, but more importantly, they had discovered a bond woven stronger than fear. Never would they take each other for granted again as they disappeared into the distance, A flicker of light danced in the air behind them. A soft whisper carrying a promise, a reminder that darkness could never extinguish true love. Now, don't just sit there. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. I want to see you flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this chilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Only true fans understand the importance of showing support through these actions. Get to it.